Hi everyone, welcome back to The Whole Truth. I'm Giller Bell, your attorney at law. And in case anyone is wondering, I'm not wearing the exact same shirt that I wear every day. I have a bunch of these shirts. So I wanted to do a video because I was just part of an X space and somebody brought up an interesting question that I think actually deserves some attention. Now, most of the people in the X space, this was a conspiracy kind of X space about the Tyler Robinson case. I stepped in, started talking, but the host was respectful. Hey, Velvet, you're my first viewer. Thank you. Again, sometimes I'm looking for a channel to watch live, and I don't see any channels that are posting anything about Candace, and so I feel like I want to get the conversation going or about the Tyler Robinson case or anything like that, and so that's why I start my own not my own my own live. So it's not really well planned out, but I enjoy interacting with you all, and if I don't see any interesting videos to watch, then I decide to just do my own. But yeah, so this one, so I was on X Space, and it's pretty much just me and you chatting with each other, Velvet, at least for the time being. But I'm getting a mirror here. Let me see. Let me fix that real quickly. Just gonna do window capture. That is gonna be ah. Okay. So, anyways, so where were we? Okay, you know what? Let me actually put it here. And there was somebody else, but now there's no one. So it's just me and you, Velvet. So ask away. We're chatting just one on one here. But yeah, so I was in this X space, and it was the usual conspiracy nonsense with Muppet Masher. But the host was actually pretty respectful, and I gotta give them credit when they're respectful. Hi Mackenzie, thank you for joining. By the way, if somebody like Artie Trolls or uh, Lady Luck or someone else is doing a live, let me know and I'll end the stream. I just wanted to chat with you lovely people. So, okay, so I'm doing this X space with these conspiracy people. Again, the host was pretty respectful. I wouldn't say most of them are smart, but I'm trying to be respectful. It didn't take too long before the Uncle Tom guy brought up the fact that I'm Jewish, which, pretty much is meant to just be like, oh, he has no, my opinion doesn't matter because I'm Jewish. But Muppet Masher had a good question, which is, or I forget if it was Muppet Masher, but they asked me, what would I say is, what would I do if I'm Tyler Robinson's defense? And so that got me thinking, I am a defense lawyer. And so that is, if I'm hired by somebody, it's my ethical obligation to provide the best defense that I can. If, it's not supposed to matter if they're guilty or not, that's their job as a lawyer. Uh, Everyone has the constitutional right to counsel. So if you can't do it, then you got to hand it off to another lawyer that can. So if I'm hired by Tyler Robinson, uh, when was this? This was maybe half an hour ago on X. What would I do if I'm Tyler Robinson's defense? So I've already mentioned a few times, I would try to get a plea deal because I don't think that there is a strong defense here. Okay, but let's say that's not possible. What would I do if I'm Tyler Robinson's defense lawyer? And I think he has a good defense team. Based on what I saw at the preliminary hearing, they're doing what they can. But, number one is I would look for any inconsistencies, and there are some. There's always going to be some inconsistencies. Whenever you're dealing with people, they're going to say something that is incorrect, on the stand. And that happened during the preliminary hearing. They got some times wrong. They got, there's somewhat trivial details, but you exploit them as a defense lawyer. You try to make it into a bigger deal than it is. You try to point to problems with the investigation. You show that maybe it was sloppy. I didn't really see too much of it, but there were, in every investigation there's sloppiness and by somebody sometimes. So as a defense lawyer, and you saw a little bit of this by Tyler Robinson's defense, they didn't bag and tag the holster, the gun holster that was found, right? Now, to me, that actually seemed a little bit, important. Like, why didn't they do that? But as Gary mentioned, this is an open carry state. And so there was probably a lot of people that had guns in the crowd and stuff. And so that, in California, if you find a gun holster near the scene of a crime, that's going to be much more significant because it's not a gun open carry state. There was the situation where they found an unspent 22 caliber, I think it was, shell that seemed to have been ejected by a police officer somewhere on campus that, again, probably didn't have anything to do with anything, but it can kind of sow some seeds of doubt in the jury's mind. We're grown. That was probably what I would do. Why are they waiting for so long for trial? Velvet asks. Seems like it's pretty normal schedule. I mean, the defendant has a constitutional right to a speedy trial. So the defendant is waiving that right because they want to have time to argue as many motions as possible, try to get as much evidence excluded as possible, conduct further discovery, things of that nature. Now, the prosecution also has a right to a speedy trial, but it doesn't override the defendant's right to fair trial. So the defense can continue things along saying that they're waiting on further discovery. That's important for the defense. More witnesses need to be interviewed, more subpoenas need to be sent out, more motions need to be heard, and so on. So really it's the defense that gets to choose the speediness of the case to an extent. There gets to be a certain point where the defendant cannot just keep asking for continuance, but for a prelim to a trial, a year to 2 years is pretty standard, at least in my experience. Especially when you're dealing with a case like this, which has a lot of evidence, a lot of moving parts. Everyone wants to make sure that the defendant has a fair trial. That's number one in everyone's mind. So, other things that I would do as a defense. Now, what I mentioned on the X space is if there's evidence of an alibi, that's number one, right? Because a good alibi and you would think that Tyler Robinson would have something to show as an alibi, because he didn't live around the corner. If he lived around the corner, then it would be a little bit more easy to explain from a defense point of view why he was in the area, why the the cell phone site tower ping location data puts him there, why he may have visited the campus. You could say, he just went there to get food or whatever. But the fact that he lived 3.5 hours away That's going to be a much harder explanation for the defense. So if there was an alibi, if there was some evidence that puts him elsewhere at the time of the murder, that would be the best defense. But as I said, that they don't have an alibi because he did it. I'm sorry, not now. To be fair, just because you don't have an alibi doesn't mean you did a crime. Sometimes you don't have any witnesses or any evidence to present an alibi. But you would think that, again, Tyler Robinson being 3.5 hours away would have something to show that he was not around UVU. Barring that, because there is no alibi. What other defense tactics? So really, you kind of, again, you want to point to inconsistencies. You want to point to some sloppiness in the investigation. You want to go after the credibility of the witnesses in any way that's possible. So if we're talking about police officers, there's something called Pitchess motions, where basically you look up the whole history and record of the officer, complaints that were made against them, disciplinary actions, so on and so forth. These are things that you might want to bring up if they get on the stand to attack the credibility. For Twiggs, who's probably the biggest witness for the prosecution, you want to attack their credibility, or his credibility too, show that maybe he has a bias against Tyler. If there's I don't think he has any criminal record. If he did, certain crimes you could bring up. So going after the credibility of all the witnesses. Then they asked about the DNA. And this is something I want to actually ask ChatGPT, because the specific question is, why was Tyler Robinson's DNA on the gun more degraded than other people's DNA? And I didn't have a great answer off the top of my head. I said, that's something that an expert would need to explain. The prosecution would bring an expert that would probably explain, maybe it was just a bad sample that was taken. They should have swabbed more different parts. Maybe for whatever reason, it just so happened that the DNA was degraded. But the defense would bring up an expert to say, well, that's unusual. You would expect Tyler Robinson's DNA, if he was the last person to handle the gun, to be much stronger quality than, Tyler's grandfather or anyone else's DNA that's also on the gun. So that I don't know. That's an expert question for a DNA expert. I'd imagine that I personally think that they were misrepresenting the degradation of the DNA. I think that the person asking the question was kind of taking a snippet where some of the DNA was degraded but not others, and it just happens naturally. But I didn't know it off the top of my head to answer that confidently. So, I said, yeah, I mean, as a defense lawyer, that's something you attack. Why? Now, one of the questions was, what about MK Ultra? What if the client, or what if Tyler was under, mind control? And so I responded, I tried, as respectfully as possible, that I've never dealt with a case where that, such a defense would make sense. But if that's a possibility, you would need an expert to testify about that. You can't just bring up possibilities. Even as a defense lawyer, you can't just bring up random possibilities without sort of any corroboration. The judge would disallow that and say, you're really confusing the jury here, and that's not what a trial is meant to do. You're allowed to have an expert based on a legitimate interview and study of Tyler Robinson that can actually testify that he's under mind control. Now, maybe one of you in the chat can actually tell me whether or not they know anything about this MK Ultra mind control. My understanding is that this is kind of like a CIA operation that was done in the past, but it's easy to dismiss a lot of these kind of conspiracies, but at the same time, you don't know everything. I don't know everything, so who knows? Maybe the government does have these mind control operations, but in a court of law, you need to provide some evidence to corroborate that. You can't just say things, right? Now, was one of the points. Hi, Nikki. One of the points that I've been making is that, is it possible that part of this, this huge, massive conspiracy involving hundreds of people took place, and from everything from the medical examiner of Utah to the investigating officers to Lance Twiggs to Tyler Robinson's parents to the feds to Israel, Egypt. Is it possible? Is it theoretically possible? Yeah, it's theoretically possible. And if that's what happened, then they've duped me. This massive, sophisticated conspiracy perpetrated, by all these entities, they duped me. But isn't it also possible that Tyler Robinson just took the shot? I mean, isn't that possible? That seems possible, right? And one of them has a lot of evidence, and the other one, you just have to make a whole lot of assumptions based on no evidence. So it's possible that we're all being duped by this massive conspiracy, sure. Or it's possible that Tyler Robinson took this shot. And, in a court of law, you have to deal with the evidence that's available. Provide some evidence, some concrete evidence, not, inferences based on little, trivial details, but some concrete evidences that there's this massive conspiracy. And then, maybe you'll sway, my opinion. But right now, I'm going off the evidence that I see, and the evidence that is presented all points to Tyler Robinson. So let me ask ChatGPT. And I know ChatGPT is not, the best. This is not a DNA expert, but let's just see. I didn't have, so why would Tyler Robinson's DNA on the 30-06 used by him, allegedly, be more degraded than DNA from others who handled the weapon, such as Tyler's grandfather, etc. Right? Let's see what ChatGPT has to say about it. So let's see. Assuming the forensic testimony actually showed that Tyler Robinson's DNA profile on the rifle was more degraded than another contributor's, that fact by itself would not be unusual or necessarily favor the prosecution or the defense, which is kind of what I said. It seems like there could be a whole lot of explanations that are plausible. And on top of it, I'm not even sure if that's actually true, that his DNA was more degraded. From what I remember, it just said that that certain DNA that was recovered from different items was degraded. But I don't remember it saying that the DNA was more degraded than other DNA profiles. But let's see. So DNA, different ages of deposition. So DNA deposited months or year before the crime may actually be better preserved if the firearm spent most of that time undisturbed in. Well, there we go. I wish I knew this during the X space. Conversely, DNA deposited shortly before recovery may degrade more quickly if exposed to sweat, rain, sunlight, heat, oils, or repeated handling. Right. So yeah, that could explain it. And again, you would really need an expert to argue any of this. So if number two, subsequent handling. If Tyler allegedly handled the rifle extensively shortly before the shooting, loading, blah, 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 his original DNA could have been mechanically smeared, diluted, or partially destroyed. Ironically, more handling can sometimes produce a poor profile than a single firm grip. See, this is why ChatGPT is going to be taking over all of our jobs very soon. I didn't think of that. Firing the weapon. The rifle generates high temperature, combustion gases, recoil, friction, mechanical movement. These factors can physically remove or damage touch DNA, especially around the bolt, stock, trigger, and action. Okay. Cleaning or wiping. Different people are different shedders. Some people just leave much more DNA than others. Collection location. So anyway, so all of these answers, which I didn't have on hand during the X space, I think really do answer the guy's questions. But yeah, I mean, as a defense lawyer, you bring up what the defense is going to argue is that if Tyler supposedly handled the rifle much more recently than anyone else, why was his DNA more degraded? You know, as according to ChatGPT, yeah, I mean, neither argument wins automatically. You're going to have the DNA experts on both sides arguing both positions. You know, law is not a science, okay? There is no formula that you punch in and you get out, oh, guilty or innocent. It's much more of an art. It is subjective. People have to use their intuition, common sense, and reason. Not everybody's going to get to the same conclusions. So, yes, either Tyler Robinson did take the shot or he didn't. That's a fact. And the court is meant to figure out, the jury is meant to find that fact. But unless you actually personally saw it, and even if you personally saw it, who knows, like, you could be hallucinating, nobody's going to be 100% certain of that fact. You have to go based on the evidence that is presented, and if you feel that it rises to beyond a reasonable doubt, then you convict. Not everybody's going to look at the same evidence and be like, oh, that's beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's not. That's the way that our system is. The jury hashes it out. To me, the evidence, as I said many times, is overwhelming. And the main thing, and they asked me, what is the strongest? And hold on 1 second while I grab something to drink. So again, they asked me what I thought was the most convincing, and my response was the text messages. I find the text messages to be the most damning. I mean, if you got that in most cases, that would be because he confesses to it. But is it possible that using some technology, they were able to send text messages from a phone that and mask Tyler Robinson's IP address to Lance Twiggs and continue doing that? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. You know, anything's possible. So at a certain point, you gotta admit that it's like, yeah, that's possible, but it's also possible Tyler Robinson sent those text messages. It's not impossible that Tyler Robinson killed. Really, the only way to show that it's impossible, is if you provide a really good alibi. But again, that is not available here. So Is it possible that this whole crazy conspiracy by hundreds of people of different agencies are setting Tyler? Yeah. I mean, if that's their point that it's possible, then yeah. I mean, but if you're going to hold that standard, then pretty much you'll never ever convict anybody of any crime. And I understand this is, not just any type of crime. This is a very significant political figure. And so, because of that, it does increase the plausibility of this massive conspiracy and cover up. But I mean, again, you're holding the state to a standard that is impossible to disprove. Is it possible the DNA was planted? Yeah. Is it possible these text messages were forged? Yeah. Is it possible their surveillance footage shows a double that's not actually Tyler Robinson and shows a vehicle that matches Tyler's license plate was actually, faked? Yeah, all of that's possible, but if you're really bending over backwards to establish an alternative theory, whereas it's also just possible that Tyler Robinson did it and that he confessed and that's why he surrendered and he confessed to his parents and everything else, all the evidence is just as it seems. So, I don't really get, you know, if your standard of beyond a reasonable doubt means that it has to be, completely impossible that it was part of a conspiracy, then I guess you would never convict anybody, and that's your choice. But 1 second, is it quiet, you guys? Because I have my phone being charged instead of my microphone. I'm gonna switch that. Can't wait the reign of lawsuits above Candace and other. Ah, God. Here's the thing: is that if it by some crazy scenario this does turn out to be the most elaborate, sophisticated conspiracy in the history of the world to frame Tyler Robinson for the murder of Charlie Kirk, involving all these hundreds of people across different entities, including medical examiner, Lance Twiggs, Tyler's parents, the investigate all the. If that's what happened, though, let me tell you, we would not be any closer to learning that based on what Candace Owens is saying. Okay, because what Candace Owens is saying is just nonsense, retardation meant to cash a paycheck. Okay, and you know how I know that? Because basically, let me just point to one example. She said Tyler Robinson had to be Spider-Man to get on the roof. Okay, to me, that's when she lost all credibility in my eyes, because she said that, and then I saw Gary go to the campus and show that you don't have to be Spider-Man, and she hasn't walked that back. She hasn't walked it back. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't said, okay, well, you know what, if that's true, then maybe I need to reassess. That was it for me. Then she just kept going on. So if is this a better setup, Nikki? Are you talking to me? Yeah, TCFS. I hope so. I really hope that Candace Owens just drops off. I mean, not saying anything violent, but I really hope that her influence drops off the face of the earth, because she is a malign force in this world. And again, if it turns out that Tyler Robinson is innocent, and believe me, I do not have any reason to want an innocent person to go to jail. Okay, Tyler Robinson never did anything to me personally. So if he's innocent, I don't want him to suffer or be punished. I would have no reason to. I want whoever is guilty to be the one that is punished. Okay? I just think that Tyler Robinson is guilty. But if he's not, then I do not want him to be in jail. But again, if all the evidence that's presented, if there's some crazy conspiracy that somehow gets public, or we learn, it will not be because of Candace's work. I can say that much. Okay, Candace will have contributed nothing to exposing that truth, because all she's said is stupidity and retardation. Okay, her own theories are inconsistent and don't make any sense. So that's probably why the defense doesn't want her, is not appreciative of what she's doing. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, Candace is the beehive. I mean, so many of these people just say things, and they just think that just by saying it, it makes it true. Like, yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, I mean, it just like, again, Spider-Man. She just said it, and maybe she thought it when she said it, but we have now seen that you don't need to be Spider-Man. There's a stairway access to the roof, and just walk over a guardrail. But people are still saying it. In fact, Tucker Carlson had on some Jew hater. I mean, all of his guests are Jew haters, but he had on this Jew hater that, in addition to mocking Erica Kirk, who Tucker Carlson calls his friend, he also repeated the Spider-Man line. So, again, if it turns out that there is a conspiracy and Tyler Robinson is innocent, we will not. Candace Owens does not deserve any credit for exposing it. If anything, she is hiding it even further. But I want to address some of the other points. So the other point that they brought up was, and I think the guy that Nick Brooks was chatting with today, which I only saw the last few minutes of, but apparently he also, he subscribes to these conspiracies. Well, one of the things he said was that he didn't believe that Lance Twiggs was sleeping in until 1 p.m. Like, he found that really hard to believe, and I'm like, why is that hard to believe? I used to sleep until 1. If I don't have work or school or something, and now I have a family, but before I had a family, I would sleep until 1. Why is it that hard to believe? And then they latch on to this, like, trivia, kind of pointless detail that is not even that hard to believe, but okay, fine, whatever. But what does that show? Well, what if, okay, Lance Twiggs didn't sleep till 1. He lied about that. Like, does that explain why Tyler Robinson confessed in 11 different ways? And, so the other point that this guy brought up, and was brought up in the X space, and this is a point that I'm sure the defense is going to mention, but I don't think that's going to mean that much, is that the owner of the Nest Cam, when they were questioned, because they turned in their Nest Cam footage, and I'm not sure exactly how, the circumstances, if they just learned that there was a murder in the area, and therefore they looked on their Nest Cam recording and saw something, so they turned it in, or if they didn't even, but basically they I forget if it was actually testimony, but let's say it was, because that's how it was posed to me. They testified that it was some bald person that left the car. And to me, this is like, okay, So they said something wrong because they're talking about Tyler Robinson's Dodge Challenger, which was parked in front of this person's house, which is kind of in close proximity to where the rifle was retrieved. And it was here that Tyler Robinson left at 1:35 a.m., which lines up nicely with the Google route search that he made from that location to his home at 1:33. But anyways, the point is that this person testified that it was a bald person that he saw leave the house. But to me, and so obviously Tyler Robinson's not bald, and so that's an inconsistency. But my response was, well, who cares what they testified they saw? We have the video. So they could, what difference does it make if they said they saw Tyler or a bald person or a woman? You know, we would have to go off that if there was no video, but we have the video. So what point are you trying to make? They obviously are wrong because the video doesn't show a bald person. Video doesn't really show anybody. It just shows the car. So obviously their testimony is just wrong. Their eyewitness memory is wrong, which happens all the time. So I didn't really get the point of that. Now, if we didn't have a video and they said that, that would be interesting because it'd be like, well, Tyler Robinson's not bald. This person says they saw a bald person. I mean, it still wouldn't mean that much because, again, eyewitness testimony is so often wrong. And the other thing is that at the time they saw this person in the middle of the night in front of their house, you know, they weren't like examining it. They just are going based on what they remember. They didn't know that it was a significant, or maybe they did by then. I'm not sure if by then they knew that what they were looking at was significant, that they would want to memorize exactly how the person looked. But it's possible that they didn't know that this was going to be part of an investigation or anything relevant. And so they just remembered, yeah, I think it was a bald person that was outside. You know, so they said that kind of like, yeah, you know, just like any other car that you remember parking in front of your house, you recall that it's a bald person, you don't know. But anyways, that's what they jump on at. And it's, to me, yeah, if I'm a defense lawyer, maybe I'll point that out. But again, I don't see how that really helps because we have the video from the Nest Cam. So I'm not sure what exactly it shows. Again, if it showed a bald person leaving Tyler Robinson's vehicle or entering or leaving, that would be something the defense is going to point out. Is like, what's going on with the vehicle here? But we didn't see anybody leave or enter, so I didn't really get the point of it. So they brought up the DNA degradation on the rifle. They keep bringing up the fact that Lance Twiggs' DNA is on the towel and the screwdriver. And I don't understand this because a lot of people seem to think that this is somehow significant. To me, if anything, it just hurts the defense more, or at least is just kind of neutral. I don't get what the point of it is that Lance Twiggs took the shot, but I mean, we don't have the rest of the evidence that points to Lance Twiggs. So what are they trying to say? Yeah, Lance Twiggs' DNA, you expect it to be on objects that are from the apartment. Maybe one of you in the Truth, she attacks anyone who is very arrogant. She believes she's always right, never correct or apologize, and I hate that. She mocks and bullies. If you're talking about Candace Owens, I agree. Yeah, I agree. She is such a bad person. I don't know how anyone can't see that by now. I guess a lot of people have not encountered sociopaths that they don't recognize it, you know? And yeah, I mean, I also, you know, maybe before 10 years ago, I would be a lot more trusting of people in general, you know? And you kind of, if you're an honest, decent person, it's hard to imagine that somebody would just lie and has like lack of emotion, lack of conscience, you know? You really, I guess, have to experience it, encounter somebody that you you learn, no matter how much you think that they're just a normal person or charismatic, then they defraud you and turn out to be just a sick, evil person, and you learn, yeah, there's these people out there called sociopaths and psychopaths that just lie, and it's hard, it's hard for normal people to understand. But that's my take on it. Yeah, like, here's the thing: the only conspiracy that makes sense, Velvet, is that Tyler Robinson was part of the conspiracy, not that he had nothing to do with it. If Tyler Robinson was the trigger person that's part of a wider conspiracy, I'd be willing to entertain that. I don't think it's true because, again, there's no evidence of it yet. And you would think that Tyler Robinson would offer to give up these other people in exchange for his life and stuff. But at least that wouldn't, it wouldn't, you wouldn't have to argue against all the evidence. You could say, okay, all the evidence is true. It all points to Tyler Robinson. He was the trigger person, but there is more to it. I think that's much more plausible, even though we don't have any evidence that shows that. At least you're not having to throw away all the evidence that we do have. But yeah, to say that Tyler Robinson is completely innocent just makes no sense. And then that person that Nick Brooks was with today, and then he just kind of took over Nick's live. I'm not sure who he is, but so his response, if this comes up, is why did Tyler Robinson surrender if he's innocent? Now, to be fair, you could say that if you're being framed for something, rather than go out on the lam, you would want to surrender yourself, right? So you could clear things up. But number one, he didn't really turn himself in. I mean, first off, you would get a lawyer. Well, I guess you would get a lawyer even if you're guilty. So he didn't get a lawyer either way. Yeah. I'm trying to address it logically. I mean, I personally, if I'm being framed for something, I would not just. I mean, Tyler Robinson's an idiot though, so I guess what I would do is different. But yeah, I would not just go into a sheriff station and be like, yeah, take me in. I would come with some evidence that I'm being framed, or at least say that. There's nothing stopping him from being like, I should not be arrested. I'm not surrendering because I'm being framed here. And, here's the reason, here's the evidence. But he didn't do that. And the other thing is, he did confess to his dad, at least according to the charging document and the search warrant affidavits. So that wouldn't be admissible in court. This would be hearsay. But at trial, at least. But it's going to come out because they're going to call the dad to testify. So, these conspiracy people would need to think that Tyler's parents are in on it. They just need to think so many things are in on it, and I just don't get why that's more plausible, more believable than just Tyler Robinson did it. So what's your question? Who's Tyler Robinson that they would use? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And I still haven't heard any real motivation why anybody in the government. I mean, this is a guy who was pro-America. He wasn't like, a subversive. I don't really get why anyone in the American government would assassinate him. And then as for now, here's a question: how come they never say that maybe Iran is behind it? I mean, or China or one of America's adversaries. They always say it's America or Israel. It's just kind of stupid because, and they point to, the fact that he was having some issues with some pro-Israel people like 3 days before, as though Israel would put together this whole plan within the 3 days, just because an American commentator takes issue. By the way, an American commentator who historically and publicly was always like Israel's best friend. The second he kind of wavers a little bit, Israel's like, "Oh, let's take him out. Let's do it in broad daylight in front of all these cameras, because Israel doesn't have enough enemies right now. Let's go out and take out an American commentator." Yeah, that's how smart Israel is. Everyone thinks that Israel's so smart and controls the world. They do something like that. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative if it's Russia or China or Iran, because that's the side that the conspiracy theorists are on. They support those countries much more. Even though those countries actually would have at least a motive to go after someone like Charlie Kirk. I don't think that they did. Again, it does none of the evidence points to any of that, but at least that would make some sense. So yeah, that's a good question. Wasn't his dad in the courtroom? Can he testify after being in the courtroom? That's a good question, Sabs. Um, his Nikki, his parents attended. Yeah. Let me check, because maybe it's a different role in Utah. In California, definitely they would be excused from the preliminary hearing. Uh, yeah. No, you're right. You're right, at Sabs. Are you sure that they were in the courtroom? Let me ask ChatGPT. Um, if Tyler Robinson's parents were in the courtroom during the preliminary hearing, because yeah, usually they're excused. Can they still be called as at trial? Okay. So according to ChatGPT, uh, it the rule about excluding witnesses only applies to the hearing that they're going to be testifying for. So so you're right to point it out, because normally you would expect one or both sides to ask for exclusion of any potential witnesses from the preliminary hearing, because what you are going to do if they do testify at trial, so they're allowed to, but that's going to open up extra questions on cross examination, and it seems kind of like unnecessary. um maybe maybe there was kind of like an informal agreement that the defense is not going to bring up, because it would be the defense that is going to cross examine the dad as a witness, right? The defense is going to say, weren't you at the preliminary hearing? You heard the testimony of these other witnesses. Um, and it wouldn't, I mean, it would be the prosecution that's going to call his dad. So Hold on 1 second. So yeah, it's a good question. Let me look into that. Let me write that down a little bit more to find out. It's possible that they were. Yeah, Nikki. They also haven't tried to appeal to Tyler's innocence. I think they're under a gag order. I think they are going to testify. At least one of them is going to testify at trial. And you're right to point out that usually, if they're going to testify at trial, they would be excluded from the preliminary hearing. It would have to, I mean, I guess it would have to be asked for by one or both sides. Um, so I don't know why neither side asked for them to be excused. I'll look into this question because it came up before, and I'm kind of maybe they're not going to call them at trial. Maybe they think that they have enough anyways, and that maybe it would, it might be a little bit off-putting to the jury if the prosecution calls the dad, makes him testify against his own son, um, when you already have so much evidence, and maybe it just wouldn't doesn't fit in with their tactics. I'm gonna look into that question. It's one of the best questions I've been asked. Gil, wouldn't you have expected the defense to try harder if they actually had evidence to? Well, yeah. So here's the thing: the defense was doing as good a job as they could based on what they had. Um, they are kind of disadvantaged at the prelim. They would have cross-examined Lance heavily based on the testimony, but because it was recorded statement, they can't really do that. So the preliminary hearing is it's more favorable to the prosecution. And to be fair to the defense, it's I mean, because it's not meant to secure a conviction. It's just meant to find out if there's enough evidence to go to trial. So it's very favorable to the prosecution. Um, you are allowed to present as much of a defense as you want, and if there was an alibi defense, you know, a a strong alibi that's corroborated, that would be enough to say that he shouldn't go to trial. He wasn't there. That would be the strongest point to bring up if that's available. But aside from that, the defense pretty much brought up, the little bit that they could in that setting. Uh, they went really into detail about how DNA evidence is not 100%. Um, but yeah, I mean, when you say if there was more evidence, I mean, yeah, if there was an alibi evidence, you would want to see that presented. Um, there is no alibi here. That's the thing, and like the other defenses that are available. I mean, self defense is sometimes applicable. That's not available in this case. Obviously, nobody would think that there's any chance of a self defense here. The insanity defense might be the angle that they play it, but there seems to be a little bit too much planning and not enough evidence to support insanity here. But maybe they can bring in some novel theories and experts that can talk about him being insane. Um, Short of those things, there's really just an alibi, and then yeah, there's no other evidence really that you can present. You could just kind of try to poke as much holes in the prosecution's evidence as possible, and that's what the defense did as best they could based on what there is available. yeah, their own witnesses weren't really helpful to their case either, though. I was just kind of, yeah. Well, what they called as witnesses. So what I think their only two witnesses were, because the prosecution was going to bring in the conclusions of the DNA and the ballistics reports, right? And that was going to be hearsay. And so the conclusions of those reports obviously are favorable to the prosecution. So what the defense did is they called the authors of those reports to testify as defense witnesses, basically so they could kind of cross-examine them. Even though they were their own witnesses, they kind of cross-examined them and pointed out, the limitations of DNA, the limitations of the ballistics conclusions, and that was it. There's not going to be any, I don't think that there's going to be any other witnesses for the defense. They might bring in their own experts again to counter the DNA conclusions and the ballistics conclusions, but that's not going to be so strong. The best that they can say is that those conclusions are not 100%, but that's kind of obvious. Nothing's 100%. So, based on what I've seen, they're not going to have any other witnesses. Any other questions or anything else? What's the latest candy conspiracy nonsense? Let's check X. But to answer your question again, Nikki, it's definitely not reserved to trial. I put up as much of a fight at my prelims as I can. They just don't have much to fight with. Tucker Carlson says Rubio's supporters, a force that needs to be excised from the Republican Party. He just means people that support Israel. Let's listen in on this one.
Charge of the liability. They're dismissing themselves their own liability just in case a record.
No, I know, I get that, but to make a claim that he's done something wrong, but without evidence, I think is like not cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna need to FOIA
a whole
his
department.
I agree.
Right,
Absolutely.
a whole department's
Yes,
worth of people
sure.
can end up on there. If a department doesn't comply with something, everyone can end up on there until the department is in compliance.
I don't even think that they are legally obligated to comply where they are they?
Right. No, I don't think. I think that I read that they're not.
No,
I've got a
they
question.
but it is disclosure in court, right? Okay,
Right.
that would be required.
Right.
is
My guess
understanding.
is the reason that this did not come up at the prelim is because they were saving this to be able to be like, yeah, that screwdriver is out.
I've got a question
That
about.
would be my guess.
Is he the one that found the screwdriver?
He's the only person that can.
I'm not even sure that
verify
they would
it.
be able to toss that necessarily just because he was in the area.
If he didn't find the screwdriver, why'd they decide to have him testify? Especially if they knew that it would this Brady thing. Wouldn't you want to find someone else
Are
that
you
was
talking
also
about
there?
Bagley? I don't think they didn't have.
Yeah,
Robert,
no,
they didn't have
Robertson
Robertson testify.
So,
no, he was talking about
Nikki,
Officer
who's
Bagley.
Kelly?
I think
Are you
it's
telling
still.
Robin
I think
she's
it's
a
still up in the
conspiracy
air who actually found it. We don't have video evidence of who found it. We know that. I mean, right now, obviously, Officer Bagley is kind of taking credit for it, but Alan Robertson is up there with them, and we don't have a video of what happened up there.
And I mean, we haven't seen anything about it. It's literally just Bagley's word.
Was in contact with the they were having on, I believe it was September 30th.
Is Gary in this one?
That's like the super short of it.
Do you know what that event was?
Sorry, everyone. Give me a minute. I'm gonna reattach. Give me 1 second, everyone, while I fix this. Okay. 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 These conspiracy theorists are stupid. They were expecting that the judge and police just post evidence online. I know. These people think that the case is meant for them. Okay. Let me see what's going on here. Start listening. I cannot join this space because I'm already in it, but I can't find it. Here we go.
Just such a
There we
small
go.
number of units. And like I've even looked at, I don't know what I haven't priced out the entire thing or looked to see what he list that they requested for price per item. But, you know, there are definitely wholesale type sites that focus on training gear or, variety of law enforcement gear or offer special law enforcement discounts. And, I just have to wonder, like, if Gary's primary bread and butter is training, certainly this was out of the norm for him to get a contract for gear.
I don't see Gary
Eco,
in this,
Kelly,
Nikki,
and
but I do
Blackline
see
Brief. I
Bronson.
posted it in the comments and I tagged you guys in the article.
Seems like a
And it
cool
was
guy.
KVL or KSL, not KVL.
Thank you. Also, just generally speaking, like Brady violations are usually regarding sort of truth telling or being caught in some sort of a lie, whether it be on the stand or on the job, on duty, things like that. There are some other
I think like
options,
harassment's
but
part of that too. Or if you're being like a complete asshole on like a consistent basis to people.
I mean, I'm looking right now, character for honesty or veracity.
Falsifying documents.
Yep, falsifying documents, evidence undermining an expert witness's expertise.
I want to say improper handling of, oh my God, I'm sorry, guys. My brain just went gone.
That's okay.
Improper
That's okay.
handling of, evidence. Sorry.
Yeah. An incident involving, let's see, and this is depending.
This is the second time I've heard her say miles per an hour. Straight to jail. Americans don't talk like that. Miles per an hour.
$2025. And then Erica said he listened to lectures to get certifications. And I was just curious if Artifacts had ever seen him listening to lectures or anything, or if this is just like another lie.
Ironically enough, at the time when I met Charlie, I met him in 2015, and I was still in high school, so I was debating going to school. There were two colleges that Charlie was kind of personally suggesting or advocating people to go to if they wanted to go to college, right? That was kind of the conditional. Because he wrote the book, The College Scam. He didn't think that everybody needed to go to college, right? He encouraged people to pursue the trades,
Uncle Tom,
etc. So he did encourage people to look at Hillsdale and the King's College at the time, which is actually where I ended up going to school. They had a Turning Point USA scholarship when I became a student there. But over time, my school had some weird stuff where our headmaster ended up kind of doing a 180 on Trump and MAGA. So that was a weird thing. And then he eventually kind of partnered with Liberty as well. But I do remember him, at least with Hillsdale, taking at least some courses online or mentioning that he did that early on, 2018, 2019, 2020. I don't know how much he did it kind of once he got a little bit more national prominence and was touring every day, right? But I know he was doing that at least in the early days, and that was kind of the few schools that he was suggesting.
And also, I mean, he took courses and stuff through PragerU, and then he just,
he did do that.
I saw a guy that just spoke, Charlie spoke at, do you know what the Promise Keepers are?
I do. I do.
Oh.
Okay, so do you know the guy that
Victor
they're,
Marx is involved with the Promise Keepers.
okay, do you know the guy that they're touting out at these campus events right now that is part of Promise Keepers?
Oh, yes,
What's his
yes.
name?
Does someone remember his name? I'm going to pull it up right now.
Is it that Ryan Van
I
Zandt
cannot
guy?
remember
No.
it off the top of my head.
No,
I'm sorry.
I got it.
Hollyhand?
No, I got it. Hold on.
Wait, just for a second. The Promise Keepers, like a brief synopsis of what I used to know Promise Keepers was like married men who like kind of needed to like recommit themselves to their marriage, correct?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Promise Keepers or there was another one like Oath Keepers or something.
Different. Different.
There's
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
in the evangelical space. It's not even funny.
No, Wendy's pretty correct, because I remember when it kicked off, and it was like their thing was also like, let's get to a stadium, let's sing some praise songs. It's like it's guy time, basically. For
Okay.
Jesus.
It was just teaching them to be good men, like the Promise Keepers, like in the 90s. Because Bill McCartney was huge. He was one of the CU football coaches out here. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was huge on it.
You're right, Leslie.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
I can
Go
hear
ahead.
you.
Sorry. Shane Winnings. Did you guys hear that? Everyone got
I
quiet.
did, yeah. Well, no.
Yeah, I was writing it
everyone-
down. Winnings. you
Everyone
said?
Okay.
opened a browser. They wrote it down. Sean Winnings.
Shane Winnings just released a video today of Charlie Kirk giving a sermon with him in never seen it before online. It's basically him talking one that he references.
And Oral Roberts has a university, right? It's just called like Oral Roberts University.
Correct.
Okay, I really appreciate that. I wasn't too sure, so I just wanted to double check. I don't believe that everything she says is a lie, but I like to fact check.
I'm so thankful for all you.
Yes,
all.
ma'am.
Please
Comment
do,
section.
yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
You guys
So
give me
Liberty
faith in
is one
humanity.
place that Erica, I guess,
Because
supposedly
online,
attended
it's a
and
shit
then
shit
apparently
show.
graduated. But then also Charlie, I believe, received an honorary
Yep,
degree
you're right.
from there. And then
I think it might
also,
have been a doctorate even, but I might be
yeah,
wrong.
that's what I think so too. I think it was an honorary doctorate.
Yeah, that's why we
But
call her
then,
Dr. Erica Kirk.
no, this
Well,
this
but
one
Charlie
was for
did
Liberty.
too. That's the
This was
thing
for
too.
Liberty.
Oh, you're right.
And
You're right.
then
I'm conflating the two. I'm sorry.
and no, it's okay. It's okay. I've kind of geeked out on some of this stuff. So and then when it comes to Hillsdale, so I want you guys to really keep in mind, or if anyone likes to dig on a side project, let's talk. But Dr. Larry Arndt is the head of Hillsdale. And so he and Charlie were super, super tight. And he spoke at the memorial service. And if you listen back to his speech, it's very weird. I mean, a lot of the memorial speeches were weird, but that one is strange. He makes a comment like, the shooter, he will die, but Charlie will live forever, or something like that. It's bizarre. Okay, but they had some kind of tight relationship, and that's the one that Erica was saying that Charlie would listen to these courses from Dr. Arndt from Hillsdale while they were like on their honeymoon or something like that. And I just have a real sneaky suspicion that he was listening to some weird stuff.
Wait, I would
Larry,
actually be down to investigate that with you because Larry Arnn's one of the people that Charlie mentions he had like full trust in uprooting the deep state in that interview with
yes.
Tucker. And I know nothing about him, but I've seen his name be dropped recently.
Let's
So let's talk.
let's
DM me.
go
DM me.
Max for sure. So he is into Seven Mountain Mandate, and that's one of the things that I've been trying to like get.
people are so
Anyway,
far
that I'm working on in the
into the
background
rabbit
amidst all
hole.
this
They're talking
other stuff.
about
There's too many dang
courses
rabbit
that
holes.
Charlie Kirk
But
took.
Larry Arnn is very into the Seven Mountain Mandate. And so it all kind of ties into Hillsdale. And also want you guys to remember that at Charlie's memorial, like he already had announced, okay, that he was going to be awarding Charlie posthumously and then Erica these doctorate degrees at Hillsdale. Like, how strange is that? That here we are trying to like honor this guy, and then you're already talking about giving them degrees like 9 months in advance. Anyway,
It's super sus.
and then they also have at
Why is
Hillsdale
that
an
suspect?
entire Charlie Kirk track.
I'm
Like,
sorry, I don't know
you
if this
can go
person's on our side or
online
not, but
and study like the Charlie Kirk
it's
way.
why
I
is
told
that
y'all I know way
suspect?
too much about this
nice
weird
Hey,
stuff.
Kelly.
So they're basically grifting off of him now.
Yeah.
Kelly, in your research, was it clear if the podcast or whatever I do remember listening to
Is
on
Rage
the
doing
honeymoon.
live
Charlie
right now?
was trying to get these in
Yes.
before he worked out. I
I'm
believe
afraid to touch my
Miss
computer because my
Erica
computer is just
Kirk
shit.
She
told that story.
recounted
Too much
that
stuff to say
at
about it, but
Hillsdale's
I'm afraid to use my computer to
graduation.
check
Yeah.
to see
So,
if Rage is
do
doing
you
it live.
recall in
Anyone else in the
you
chat?
researching this if she mentioned if that was on the bat phone or was that the regular phone? Remember the
This
bat
That was
phone?
isn't this X
that was
space.
like, I think it was the bat phone that was specific for, this time that they were supposed to be totally disconnected.
Yeah.
So it had the emergency
Hopefully that's
contacts
what
on it,
else.
Uh-huh.
and then the
Yep.
podcasts. Okay.
Yep.
Do you really think it was an identical clone, or did they give him one of those like jitterbug flip things that had a MP3
Oh,
player?
I mean, look, it could have been a basic iPhone. It could have been something else that was just, known as like the phone that he got to use. I don't know.
Well, write
But
it down when Blake Snap comes in here, and we'll ask him, and he'll get back to us in a couple months. All right.
He won't
oh
remember.
yeah, he won't remember. He wasn't around at that time. He was with Tucker, or he was with Stu, or he was with somebody else. I don't know. But I don't know if he was with Charlie just yet.
That's true. All right.
I have just one last request before I step down as speaker. Does anyone happen to have photos of Tyler Robinson before, like, the photos that they say is him at UVU came out? I'm looking for like family photos or anything like that. There's a specific reason I'm looking for them, but I kind of don't want to put it out there just yet.
Who is speaking?
Theory Con.
All right, I'll find you here.
Make
if
sure you give her
anybody
a
could
follow
just,
so
like-
she can get, in with us and get some information and stuff. She seems like she's really working hard.
Thank you so much.
And also keep in mind that there's also a video of him on police body camera when he was involved in an accident, which isn't a photo, but if you take a screenshot, it's lots of them. So
I actually do have that, and that is like one of the main important pieces of what I'm working on. So I'm trying to actually see if there is any other photos of him with any other hats on, because it seems like he's had the same hat and sunglasses since 2022, which was the time he was pulled over. And I'm just now finding that at UVU, the logos are not the same, but like the two-toned hat kind of looks the same. So I'm kind of just on to something, and I'm just filling it out. So I would just be very curious if I could find any other photos with a different hat. I know he has a black hat and like a grayish hat, but I'm curious if I could find any other hats.
well, I did hear that he likes hats. That's what I heard.
Okay, yeah, that would be great
See?
if anybody could find
they're
any
making
other hat
strides.
besides like
They're
a
making
grayish
strides.
bluish hat that he's usually seen in most of the photos, or that black hat with the white logo that he is seen at Dairy Queen with, because that would be very helpful.
Were you making a?
appreciate that. I was going to say my personal thought on, you know, the Tyler dupes at UVU, if those are, you know, alternate Tylers, that maybe they wore the hat not only because he wore a hat in a lot of the public facing photos previously, but also because of his bald spot. And the hat would help to conceal that
That's
on
actually,
like a
sorry.
Timu Tyler. Yeah.
Sorry, that's actually another point I have. I was going to play a little bit of Elle Woods, if you guys ever seen Legally Blonde, where she talks about the perm and everything. I am curious how much hair is sticking out of the back of the hat in the stairwell footage. Like, my man is kind of balding. Like, it's not adding up. And I used to be a cosmetologist, like hairstylist, so something's just not adding up there either.
There we go.
Yep. I don't think they, you know, they tried to do their best, but they couldn't get it past us ladies who like hair.
Oh, 100%. With the hats, I did notice if they were trying to get like a picture of him for like decoys or something, there is one specific picture where he has the grayish hat on. It has a black logo. And the day of the shooting in the stairwells, he has that two-toned hat that has the black logo that he's always seen in, but it has a white logo at UVU. And all the other photos I can find of him in this grayish looking hat has the black logo. And then even if he wore his black hat with the white logo at like he did at Dairy Queen, it's still not the same logo as the one in the UVU stairwell like footage. Also, I noticed when they talked about him changing twice, they talked about everything down to his shoes, that he kept the same shoes on, but never mentioned the hat, never mentioned he changed.
Did I lose my connection?
Like where the logo goes.
It's like
On the
okay,
back.
so if you guys look at, do you guys know the footage of when he was pulled over by chance?
I recall it in my head.
Okay, well, if you look at that, that hat is the main one that he is seen in a lot of his photos. And he kind of turns to the side where you can see it's fitted and doesn't have like the little part where you can like make it tighter or looser in the back. And it has the black logo. But then in that footage, it looks two-toned, specifically like the front is lighter and the sides are darker. And in the stairwell footage, that hat is like two-toned and it kind of looks similar. And the logo looks similar, but it's white instead of black. And so I was just curious if we could find any like photos of him in any other hats besides that one he's mainly like taking pictures in.
Do you is this work that you're doing all on your computer, or have you posted it on your wall, and are you waiting to do that until you figure out the thing you're looking for?
I have not posted it. I have emailed Baron Coleman about it, but obviously he has a lot of emails. I have also talked to, I think her name is Charlie's Angels on here. I sent it to her just to get an opinion. Yeah. So it's kind of just something I was working on in the background of my own
That's the cosmetologist.
So here's what I'd recommend. You're the hat girl now. So post just one photo of the hat and then ask a question. I don't want to see all the photos of the hats because right now you're looking for hats. So on your wall, just say, hey, I got some questions about hats, and then you can post it underneath and I'll find it, just because sometimes on this space here, it doesn't really show which talking head it is. And if you post it, do you know about the purple pill in the lower right-hand corner? It's purple.
I do not.
Okay, on your screen, lower right-hand corner, just poke that thing that looks like a little talking little caption head, like a talking bubble for a cartoon. If you click that, you'll see a bunch of people talking about me and Uncle Tom and all these things.
It has the number 158 by it right now.
Yes.
Down
at the bottom where the microphone is.
Oh, is it just like the comments area?
It's actually called the comments. Maybe
that's what he was trying to say. He's just,
I'm sorry. Yes, I do. I'm on there. Sorry about that.
So tell Wendy she's great or something and say I'm the hat person. And if you have one, like if you're on your phone, you just post one and then it helps people find it right now to like it, and then we'll find it tomorrow because we're all busy.
Okay. That's totally fine.
I mean, it's a management thing. Yeah, it'll help. Because I want to learn more about that.
Thank you. That will help us be able to find you tomorrow so we can, kind of see if we can help out or whatever. But you just keep going, Max, girl, because you're doing a good job and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the help and letting me speak and everything. Thank you so much.
As detectives.
Oh, make sure to follow Wendy or anyone that's speaking and it doesn't sound dumb. And then it will alert.
Yeah,
nobody needs to follow me. I'm good.
Okay, I definitely will follow you guys and I will post that. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. And the reason you do that is not because Wendy wants more followers. It's because in your notification, when you go to all, when people are speaking, it will just show up. So it helps you find spaces.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if I don't get with you or Adam doesn't get with you, if you followed us, then you can just send us a quick message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. You know what I mean?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
We have Maya, and this is the lady
Anyone
that
else?
calls other people obsessed with Candace when she has
Oh my.
Candace as her.
Do we have any announcements, Wendy, to the group?
Sorry, I was trying to get my mic to unmute. I don't have any announcements. If nobody has anything else that they want to talk about, I saw Blake was in here. I saw Matt was in here. I didn't know if they wanted to say anything. I don't know.
I just see Rage in here, so
I'm gonna look.
If you want to talk or you want to say something, raise your hand so we can get through it and get to you guys because I don't want to leave anybody out. Everybody's important.
There's 3 slots open, so people can request. Just hit request down there. Look at this dead air time. If the people could take all the yelling and spread it out, and it could all just go right here.
My head is so thankful that it's a little bit quiet right now.
Well, Wendy only yelled once and she was muted, so then she apologized.
Well, I didn't mean to. I yell at the dogs, and so sometimes I forget to hit mute, and then I thought I didn't hit mute, and here I am yelling at the fucking dog to shut the fuck up, and I felt bad.
Did you ever find that clip from the other day? Someone should clip that because
I did find it, but I didn't clip it. I'm not going to out myself.
I'm too lazy to find it. Blake needs to do that. Hey, Blake, when it's time to clip it, when you know you're going to say something, you go, clip this now. This is real important because Wendy's going to yell at the dog. So ready? Here it comes. And that gives us like an 8-second thing. I need more than 3. That's all.
Blake's in here and doesn't have anything to say. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, he probably fell asleep. He did that once. He had
it is getting kind of late. It's like 2:30 in the morning in Florida.
Oh my, you just doxed yourself, Wendy.
That's okay. I'm all right.
So Britta says no doxing, just to remind everyone.
Is that like swipe or no swiping? Britta, no doxing.
I don't know, but the thing is when the space ends, that's the title. Do we need to change the title? Are we okay with this?
I'm so okay with it. I'm so okay with it.
I put the date on there. That way we'll know. Oh, that was when the hat girl came in. I'm talking about the hat. I almost wanted to change it to something about the hat, but I don't know how to word this. So let's see if she posted in there.
No, leave what Wolf says. He always has the funniest titles.
Well, I'm working on it. I had to put kids to bed. I literally fell asleep and then my phone died. There's this free app on your phone. I'll put in a word from the unpaid sponsor. You can like play these stories and it tells you about like a little dog that played at the park, and then it will say Jesus loves you and then be kind to people. I should find that. I don't know what the rules are. There's a nice. I'll tell it to you.
Okay.
And they want money, but I don't want the kid to want to listen to like 38 stories or anything like that. It's called Story Time. And it's a picture of Tio, and he's a little bear, and he wears a hat. So if you click into it, which I'm not going to do now because I'm on this thing. So it will. I think you can get like 3 stories that is for free. And some days, I don't know when, they want you to listen to all of them. I think it's on Friday. I haven't figured that out, but the kid likes it. So it's called Storybook.
I'm so glad I'm past that stage.
The kid likes it.
Well, no, like sometimes
I called my kids my spawns.
Well, that works. Well, this thing will read to them, and some of them are very peaceful. It's just relaxing music, so I fall asleep sometimes.
Interesting X spaces.
Well, we want to end this thing then.
Right.
If everybody's done talking.
I'm sorry. Yeah, should we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Now, I do want to say, though, thank you all so much for coming out to my second ever space. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hosting.
I appreciate everybody who helped me, especially Wolfman, Adam, Charlie. I know she's not in here, but her, Uncle Tom, oh my God, why can't I remember? Eco and Muppet Masher for you coming in and just, helping us out too. So you guys have been awesome.
Did you shout out Britta?
Oh, yeah. And
Did
thank
Britta
you
get
to
a shout
Britta,
out?
because you know what? It is important to have dissenting conversations. It helps stretch us. It helps us articulate our arguments better. And it just kind of helps, sometimes it's good to look at both sides of a situation and then decide where you stand. So I really do like that. And I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, someone's requesting. What is this? Last chance? Who's requesting? This may be a breaking news here. Oh,
Yes,
no,
let
it's
Uncle Tom come
Tom.
back up real fast. He probably has something to say, and it's important.
I don't
Everything
know. Should we
Uncle Tom
vote on
says
it?
is
Or hold
important.
on. I almost muted him there because people were calling me out for not muting people, and then I was gone.
You're on, Uncle Tom. You got a mic.
I'm going to have... There you go.
Oh, no. Were you just wrapping it up?
Yeah, we're starting to wrap it up. I've got a really bad headache, and I'm exhausted.
Oh, man. Sorry to hear that.
No, that's all right.
Do you know why that happened, Uncle Tom?
What, the headache?
No, why she's tired.
All right,
Oh, I have no idea.
This X space is over, so I'm probably
East
gonna
Coast.
head out, go to
Oh,
sleep.
I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah. I'm an old lady, though. It's getting kind of
Well,
late
just-
for me.
Conversation. We learned
For reference purposes, the date on the...
we had a cosmetologist offer her expert opinion. So there we go. All right, everyone. I'm going to sleep. Thank you for joining me.